Good morning. Good morning to everyone as we enjoy one of my favorite services, the Flower Communion, with Kristen and Reverend Karen and a cast of thousands. Well, today we're here at the fellowship outside on our beautiful grounds. Occasional raindrops. It's a typical Reno, Nevada weather. The sun is actually shining through an occasional rain, so we never know what we're going to have. And we're, of course, delivering here at the fellowship and on Zoom, and for some later in the archives. So we're glad you're with us for another day of reflection and introspection. My name is Dave Bianchi, and I'm serving as your worship associate today. So if you're new to us, know that we're a welcoming community and that we care deeply for all people, regardless of racial identity, age, economic circumstances, immigration status, sexual orientation, or gender identity. Our mission is to grow together in love, faith, justice, and joy. Well, since we're outdoors today, it's mask optional, so we respect one another's decisions about face coverings and social distancing. And those of you on Zoom, of course, will remain muted during the service, but you can put comments in the chat box. There'll be no, oh yes there will. There will be coffee time following the service. I was reading last week's script. So no matter where you are today, sit back and enjoy, and thank you for being with us.
Today we honor an annual tradition, the flower ceremony, which was first offered in June 1923 to a congregation of Unitarians in Czechoslovakia who were looking for religious freedom. As you might imagine, in that time, Unitarians trying to believe something different than what everyone else believed in was brave and sometimes scary. And so the minister at this new congregation in Czechoslovakia, Norbert Čapek, decided to create a ritual that would remind people why they were coming to this community and give them courage. The original ritual was very similar to the one that we will celebrate today. Each person came with a flower, symbolizing the unique beauty they bring to this world. The flowers were gathered together in colorful bouquets, showing the beautiful community created from individuals. And then each person left the gathering with a flower different from the one they had brought, thus symbolizing the gifts and strength received from being in community with others. If you have a chalice nearby, will you light it and add your flame to this collective chalice that we'll light together? Today, we acknowledge the vision of our Unitarian ancestors that created a lasting ritual that would capture so perfectly the beauty of Unitarian Universalist communities. As we gather our flowers today, 99 years after that original ceremony, may we be reminded of the power inherent in coming together week after week, committed to a world that we know is possible. Will you please bring forward the flowers?
struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. Gathered here in the mystery strong body. Gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Gathered here in the mystery of the hour. Gathered here in the strong body. Gathered here in the struggle and the power. Spirit, draw near. Spirit, draw near.
Hi, we have a three-part story to share with you today, and it's called Wanda's Roses by Pat Brisson. One morning in May, on the way to school, Wanda noticed a bush growing in the empty corner lot at Fillmore and Hudson Streets. It must have been growing for a while because it was about 2 feet tall, and Wanda was surprised she hadn't noticed it before. But there it was, bare and thorny, and Wanda, who loved beautiful things, felt her heart beat faster. A rose bush, she said to herself, my very own rose bush. Now, the rose bush didn't really belong to Wanda, but since nobody seemed to own the lot, or the heaps of junk that were piled there, she decided she would care for this bush and make it her own. All during school, she thought about her rose bush. During art, she drew pictures of what it would look like in bloom. During library, she borrowed books on arranging flowers. During science, she asked so many questions about how to take care of it that finally her teacher said she really must stop asking questions about roses and start thinking about electricity, which was what the lesson was about. After school, she rushed to the rose bush. It was still bare and thorny. Maybe it needs some sun, thought Wanda. So she put down her school bag and began dragging some of the nearby trash out to the curb. Mrs. Turner, who was on her way to the store, stopped to help her with a broken chair. Cleaning up the neighborhood, Wanda? Mrs. Turner asked. That's a nice project for you. Oh, I'm not cleaning, Wanda told her. I'm helping my rose bush to get more sun so it will bloom. Your rose bush? Mrs. Turner asked. Where's your rose bush? Over there, Wanda said, pointing proudly to the bare, thorny bush. Oh, Wanda, I'm not so sure that's a rose bush, Mrs. Turner said gently. Sure it is, said Wanda. I've seen rose bushes in books, and this is what they look like before they bloom. You just wait. In a few weeks, this lot will be full of roses. Well, said Mrs. Turner, shaking her head, good luck with it, Wanda. And as she walked away, Mrs. Turner thought to herself, if that's a rose bush, then I'm the Queen of England. The next day, after school, Wanda hurried to her rose bush. It was still bare and thorny. Maybe it needs more air, thought Wanda, so she put down her school bag and began taking more of the trash out to the curb. Once I get all this trash out of here, nothing will block the air from getting to my rose bush, Wanda thought. Mr. Claudel was on his way home from work, saw Wanda trying to drag an old door, and stopped to help. Cleaning up the neighborhood, are you, Wanda? He asked. Not just cleaning, Mr. Claudel, Wanda told him. I'm getting rid of this trash so my rose bush will get more air. A rose bush? Here? Mr. Claudel asked. And so Wanda showed him the rose bush. I don't know much about gardening, Wanda, Mr. Claudel said, frowning, but I don't think that's a rose bush. Sure it is, said Wanda, and in a few weeks this lot will be filled with the sweetest smelling roses you ever saw. She thanked Mr. Claudel for his help and went off to drag away some more trash. Mr. Claudel shook his head. If that's a rose bush, he said to himself. Then I'm the king of France. Every day after school that week and the next, Wanda worked in the empty lot. Mrs. Giamoni, who lived in an apartment next door, gave Wanda trash bags for the old shoes, beer bottles, broken toys, and bits of glass that she was picking up. You've done a great job cleaning up this lot, Wanda, Mrs. Giamoni told her. Oh, I'm not just cleaning, Wanda said. I have to get rid of all of this trash so my rose bush will get enough sun and fresh air to bloom. But where's your rose bush? Mrs. Giamoni asked. So Wanda showed her. Mrs. Giamoni put her hand on Wanda's shoulder and spoke softly to her. Wanda, she said, this is not a rose bush. Oh, but it is, said Wanda. And in a few weeks this lot will be filled with the most beautiful roses you ever saw. That would be nice, said Mrs. Giamoni. But I don't want you to be disappointed if this bush doesn't bloom. Don't worry, Mrs. Giamoni, Wanda answered. I won't be disappointed. Mrs. Giamoni sighed. That is not a rose bush and will never be one, she thought to herself.
invite you to join me in a moment of grounding and centering and meditation and prayer. What a blessing it is to be here surrounded by beauty. Whether you're in your home watching the beauty of these flowers or you're immersed in it here in nature. There is so much that we hear in the news on a regular basis that is so overwhelming and painful and fills us with rage and sorrow and fear. And it's really heavy sometimes. And I think one of the reasons we come together in this kind of community is to soak in the beauty and breathe in all of the goodness so that we can emerge into the world again. So I invite you into just a moment here. Breathe in that beauty and let it surround whatever it is that's you are holding in your heart right now. And just sit in that beauty for a minute. And let that beauty be the overwhelming feeling in your heart at this moment. And if you're with us online, you're invited to share your joys and sorrows in the chat. And if you're here with us, will you just hold for a moment all that is on your heart, surrounded in beauty. Will you join with me in our gesture to one another, one hand on our hearts and one hand extended outwards towards each other. And in this way we say, I see you and I hear you through all that it is that you might be experiencing. And I am here to hold you and remind you of the beauty in this world, no matter what else is happening. Amen. Blessed be.
I know this rose will open. I know my fear will burn away. I know my soul will unfurl its wings. I know this rose will open.
Well, this is the time of our service when we offer our bounties with each other to continue the positive and far-reaching outreach to our fellowship and to the greater community. A basket be circulated for those of us here, and for those of you on Zoom, and even those here can text 73256. That's 73256. Putting UUFNN in the message box and hit send. You can also mail a check to the office here at 780 Del Monte Lane, Reno 89511. Or better yet, you can sign up for automatic giving. Just call the office and Carol will send you a form. It's a simple and convenient way to go. Now, each month, we select a local nonprofit to share our plate with. And this month, we're donating to Wild West Access Fund of Nevada. Now, I first heard about this organization just a few weeks ago when Lois and I attended the rally after the leaked decision from the Supreme Court came out. And we heard about this group from our Maureen Scott, who is here with us today. Maureen, would you come forward? She's a board member of this organization and will tell us a little bit about it. Maureen?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for welcoming me into your space today. My name is Maureen Scott, and I am a co-founder and board member of Wild West Access Fund, a statewide abortion fund here in Nevada. Our fund is 100% volunteer run by our community, and we started in June of 2021. In less than a year, we've helped over 300 people seeking abortion here in Nevada. Immediately after starting our fund in June, we realized that our organization would have to be very adaptable, given the news of laws in Texas and Mississippi, and now the SCOTUS leak and the potential reversal of Roe v. Wade. We started Wild West Fund knowing that abortion, while legal in our state, was not accessible due to Medicaid coverage barriers and limited providers. Now we've expanded that mission to making abortion not just accessible for folks in Nevada, but those that will need to come here for care and those that will need help accessing abortion pills across restrictive state lines. At every restriction placed on abortion, whether it's an age requirement or a ban at 8 weeks or a ban at 24, there's a person in the margins who deserves the right to make their own healthcare decisions. Communities of color are disproportionately affected by threats to abortion care, and a lack of access to abortion care doesn't just affect one person. It has a rippling effect on families and communities. Being turned away from abortion care can lead to devastating medical outcomes and push someone even further into the cycle of poverty that they're trying to escape from. When we talk about what happens when abortion's inaccessible, we need to look no further than the Turnaway Study. The Turnaway Study found that being denied abortion care leads to worse financial, health, and family outcomes, while receiving abortion care does no harm to the future well-being of the person seeking care. Through the Wild West Fund, we're building a future where abortion care is not just accessible, but simple, where it's treated like the essential health care that it is, and it's a vital piece of reproductive justice, part of a framework that uplifts communities to thrive and every person to have dignity and autonomy in the direction of their life. We hope to break down barriers on how our community cares for one another by uplifting the stories of those who have lived experiences with abortion, especially those that are often misunderstood. Thank you again for your time today, and it means so much to our fund to meet you all and engage on our shared values. As you can imagine, funding is the heart of what we do. An abortion costs $600 to $2,600 in Nevada, and far more when you consider those traveling here or needing to travel out of state from Nevada. Your support allows someone to not have to choose between essential health care and their rent. It allows parents to put food on the table while they make the best choice for their family. It helps someone take a vital step in escaping interpersonal violence. It helps a college student on their own for the first time continue their education. And it's an act of love for our community to not only trust one another to make our own choices, but to stand in solidarity when systems of power fail us. I can't understate my gratitude for this opportunity today. Reproductive justice is long overdue, and your help gets us one step closer. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen. If you're texting, you can go in and make a direct donation to the fellowship, or you can go in and designate this nonprofit. So you have to go in twice to do both. So we just thank you for your generosity today. And well, the ushers, also known as David and Janet, wander about. Thank you. Thank you, Andy and Sandy. That was great. Would you join David and me as we bless our offerings to the work of this fellowship, which is helping more people grow in love, faith, justice, and joy? We dedicate ourselves, and these are offerings. And now we continue, part 2, Wanda's Roses. Well, the next week, when the rose bush still wasn't blooming, Wanda talked to her school librarian. "I need some books about getting roses to bloom," she told Mrs. Jones. "Oh, do you have a rose bush, Wanda?" Mrs. Jones asked. "Well, yes, but it doesn't have flowers yet, and I know it has enough sun and fresh air." "Well, does it have enough water?" Mrs. Jones asked. "Water?" Wanda said, "Of course. That will make it bloom." Well, that afternoon she hurried to the rose bush. It was still bare and thorny. She looked at the dry ground and smiled. "Don't worry, little bush," she said out loud. "I'll get you some water, and then you'll be able to grow flowers." Wanda went to the butcher shop across the street. "Mr. Sanchez, would you please give me some water for my rose bush?" "Rose bush? Is that what I see you taking care of and talking to every day over there? Are you sure that's a rose bush, Wanda?" Mr. Sanchez asked. "Oh, yes, I'm sure," Wanda said. "But it can't bloom because it needs water." Mr. Sanchez gave her water in a plastic bucket. "I hope that really is a rose bush, Wanda," he said, looking at her doubtfully. "You'll see," Wanda told him. "In a few weeks, that whole lot will be full of roses." As Wanda carried the water to her rose bush, Mr. Sanchez muttered, "In a few weeks, that thorn bush will still be a thorn bush." Every day, Wanda ran to the rose bush after school, but every day it was still bare and thorny. She watered it and sang to it and checked its branches for roses. Mr. Claudel, on his way home from work, stopped to see if there was any roses yet. Mrs. Turner, on her way to the butcher shop, stopped to see if there were any roses yet. And Mr. Giamatti, seeing Wanda in the lot, called down from her apartment to ask if there was any roses yet. When Wanda went to the library at school, Mrs. Jones asked if there was any roses yet. And every day, when Wanda went to the butcher shop for water, Mr. Sanchez asked if there were any roses yet. To each person, Wanda would answer the same thing: "Just you wait. Pretty soon the whole lot will be filled with roses."
We laugh, we cry, we live, we die, we dance, we sing our song. We need to feel there's something here to which we in the strength of love, and we have found a place to be together. And we have right to go. We have the gift to believe that peace with pleasure living is an answer. We seek elusive answers to the questions of this life. We seek to put an end to all the waste of human strife. We search for truth, equality, and blessed peace of mind. And then we come together here to make sense of what we find. And we believe in life and in the strength of love. And we have found the joy to be together. And in our search for peace, maybe we'll finally see even true question truly is an answer. Thank you. Thank you.
And now, to end the suspense, Wanda's Roses, Part 3. And then, one day in June, Wanda had an idea. Looking at the bare, thorny bush, she said, "If my rose bush won't give roses to me, I'll just have to give roses to my rose bush." And when she saw Mrs. Turner, Mr. Claudel, Mrs. Giamoni, Miss Jones, and Mr. Sanchez, she gave each of them an invitation that said, "Please come for tea and muffins in Wanda's Rose Garden, Saturday morning at 9 a.m." "Oh dear," said Mrs. Turner, "is she still expecting to get roses from that thorn bush?" "Oh no," said Mr. Claudel, "and she's worked so hard too." "Oh my," said Miss Giamoni, "she'll be so disappointed." "Oh darn," said Mr. Sanchez, "there must be something I can do." "Oh good," said Miss Jones, who had only heard about the bush from Wanda, but hadn't seen it for herself, "and I'll bring the muffins." The night before the tea party, everyone was very busy. And then next morning at 9, everyone was very surprised to see Wanda's rose bush covered with roses. Paper roses that Wanda had made herself and carefully tied to each bare, thorny branch. But more surprising yet, everyone who came to the party had brought along a rose bush to plant near Wanda's, except Miss Jones, who had brought delicious blueberry muffins. And they had eaten their muffins and drunk their tea, and then they all got busy planting rose bushes. Mr. Claudel and Mrs. Turner dug the holes. Mrs. Giamoni held the bushes in place while Wanda and Miss Jones filled in around the roots with soil, and Mr. Sanchez brought water from his shop and watered them all thoroughly. When the work was finished, Mr. Claudel said, "Wanda, this is going to be a rose garden fit for a king." "Or a queen," said Mrs. Turner. Wanda and the others smiled. And later that summer, the whole lot was filled with the biggest, most beautiful, sweetest smelling roses that anyone had ever seen, just as Wanda had always said it would be.
The whole lot was filled with the biggest, most beautiful, sweet-smelling roses that anyone had ever seen. Just as Wanda had always said it would be. Wanda could see beauty that no one else could see. Wanda had a vision that no one else could see. And she could see so clearly, and she believed so much in her vision that lo and behold, eventually, it came to be. We are invited to put on the same vision, the same kind of eyes that Wanda taught us about. we are invited to see beauty that's not there yet. We're invited to see beauty that is there if we can only see it and notice it and take it in. And so today at our annual flower communion ceremony, I'm going to invite us to really take in the beauty of these flowers that are before us and to take in the beauty of each other and of ourselves. Those who are online are invited in the next few moments to have a flower nearby that you can reflect on its beauty, or you can take a piece of paper, much like Wanda did, and follow the directions that are being dropped into the chat and make your own paper flower. And those of us here in this space will engage in our flower communion. And the way that that will happen is you will come forward to one of the tables and take one of the flowers to be your own little vision and representation of beauty this morning. And I'm going to ask you to be particularly mindful and careful of the obstacle course, the uneven ground that our critters help provide for us. Just really be mindful of where and how you're stepping so that we can take care of each other. And so in the next few moments, we're invited to come forward and participate in our flower communion, receiving for yourself one of the flowers that's a different one than the one that you brought today. Let our flower communion begin.
I invite you to look at the flower you have received closely and examine its intricate beauty with all its perfect imperfections. As you look at the flower you have received, let it remind you of the beauty in this community. May we each be a blessing to this community, and may we each receive the blessings of being together. To each person, Wanda would answer the same thing. Just you wait. Pretty soon, this whole lot will be filled with roses. May we have faith like Wanda in a vision of who we want to be and the courage to make it possible. And may these flowers and this community bless us with the strength to know that together we can manifest all that we hope to see in this world.
Give us a moment to reset. A lot of music this morning. I'm going to invite Jennifer and Kaio to come forward for just a moment so that we can bless them and send them off on their next adventure. It's a bittersweet opportunity this morning. Jennifer has received a professorship at, help me remember, I'm going to get the name wrong. Stanislaus County. She has received a long hoped for, and this is part of her career path that she has been pursuing. And while it is extremely bittersweet for us to lose Jennifer and Kaio, we want to bless them and send them on their way with our grace and our thanksgiving this morning. Jennifer has, for the last couple of years, provided leadership to our Borderlands Justice Team, which works on immigration issues. Kaio has been part of our youth activities, and Jennifer was also set to join our Board of Trustees this summer, but that is not to be. And so we are excited for them for this next step in their journey. Kaio and Jennifer, we will hold you in our hearts always, and we want to say thank you for the contributions that you have made here, your leadership, your engagement, your participation, and we just wish you so well on this next chapter of your adventure. We send you with our love, with our grace, with our hope, and we will hold you in our hearts. You have a place here whenever you can come back and be with us. We love you. Be blessed. You're welcome at the close of our service to give your personal message to them as they will go on their way in just a couple of weeks. I want to thank you so much for joining us this morning for our flower communion ceremony, and a special word of gratitude that the sprinkles have held off. We did have some sprinkles while we were setting up and rehearsing earlier this morning, just enough to get our attention and make us make a plan B. And we're thankful that we were able to be out here in this beauty in our little oasis this morning, and we're excited that those of you online have been able to join us this morning as well. I wanted to just give you a reminder that 2 weeks from today, another extremely bittersweet moment That will be the day that we will celebrate after worship Kristen's departure on the next phase of her adventure for her internship toward becoming Unitarian Universalist clergy. And so that we'll have we'll celebrate Juneteenth in service that day on the 19th. And then immediately following, we'll have lunch and a special party for Kristen. So please be sure to be present for that special day. And because we're providing food, you'll need to make a reservation. So please do that online or after the service. You can see Lois today if you haven't put your reservation in for that. If you're online and you're new to us, you can fill in the information that's in the chat and get on our mailing list. And we have a number of new folks here with us today, and we welcome you. We're delighted that you're here with us and exploring our community. And David can help you get connected with our email and some other information. There's David over there. You're welcome to stay in this space as long as you like for conversation and connection. And once again, we want to thank you so much for being part of our flower communion ceremony today. Let's let our little light shine with our beauty as we join together in our closing song. Beloved, would you receive the blessing? You're invited to make the gesture that we learned to do together when we were on Zoom, connecting our windows as a reminder of our connection one to the other. As you go from this place, may you find beauty in unexpected places. May you have eyes to see beauty. May you go from this place and may you share beauty. Blessed be, amen, and namaste.